Hi, what I want to talk about today is whataboutism. It's also sometimes called whataboutery. It's a logical fallacy. I'm just going to read out a definition for you. Whataboutism, also known as whataboutery, is a logical fallacy that attempts to discredit an opponent's position by charging them with hypocrisy without directly refuting or disproving their argument. So, sort of in layman's terms, it's like, you're accusing me of doing something bad, but you do bad things too, and therefore you can't accuse me of doing something bad. That's roughly what we're talking about. Just want to explain why it's I'm interested in logical fallacies. I'd recommend giving them a Google. There's some great stuff on YouTube, but there's a really good list of 15 most common logical fallacies. And I have to admit, since I've started looking into them, I see them more and more. And the idea of a logical fallacy is there's nothing behind it. It seems impressive, but it's nothing behind it. So once you start spotting them, you realise that people are just kind of playing games or playing tricks on you. Anyway, the reason I'm thinking about it right now is because of the tragedy yesterday where Sergeant Matt Ratana was murdered in Croydon Police Station. I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of that. It's just so fresh in everybody's minds. Condolences to his family and, RIP for him. It's a tragedy. Anyway, I've been looking on the internet about it, and I'm sure other people have as well. And one of the things I was on Twitter, and there was a hashtag called Blue Lives Matters. And I started looking in that just to see what people were saying. And I have to admit, I found it quite shocking because about every second tweet that was under this Blue Lives Matters hashtag also mentioned Black Lives Matters. And I couldn't understand why people were so keen to involve that, to put that into the argument as well. And this kind of brings us back to the whataboutery bit, because it seemed to me that they were using, they were using this man's death to, promote their own agenda. What they really wanted to talk about was Black Lives Matters, and they wanted to undermine it. There's a couple of things that stick in my mind really, vividly. One was about Alicia Dixon. So people were sort of saying, is Alicia Dixon going to wear a Blue Lives Matters necklace on Britain's Got Talent? What's that about? And then there was another guy who explicitly said, I hold Black Lives Matter responsible for this murder. Where does he get that from? And as I sort of say, you can just see people shifting the argument from one thing to another. Sometimes people do it, innocently. There's an emotional appeal to this kind of stuff. You do this. Well, what about that? What about this? That's why, that's where the common name comes from. And, I can understand, why people might, feel the draw, feel that, they want to respond in that way. But what I would sort of say, it adds absolutely nothing to the argument. It doesn't address the central point. All it does is kind of change the subject onto something that, is going to fire up people's emotions. It's built in sand, and it doesn't offer any solutions, which is why it's a good idea to know about these things. So some people use it innocently. I accept that, they just go there and it's quite a natural thing. But there's some people that are not using it innocently, particularly the second guy that I mentioned, who's sort of saying, I blame Black Lives Matter for this murder. That is shithousery at the highest level, basically. That is absolutely taking a tragedy and just using it for their own agenda. That person, I had a wee look at his profile. Obviously, he's on the right, and he's just using this to attack something that he doesn't agree with. And that's just, the most convenient thing that is at his disposal right now. I don't think, I'm sure he's got somewhere in there. There's a human being that cares about the murder, but right now all he's doing is utilising it to advance his argument. And they use it to manipulate people's feelings. And suddenly, two things that aren't connected at all, the murder of a police officer and Black Lives Matters. Suddenly, one is competing with the other. You can feel strongly about both. You can feel strongly about it, police officers being murdered and how wrong that is. And you can feel strongly about black people being murdered in America. You can feel strongly about these things. It's not one or the other. You can feel strongly about them both. But the way people want to set this argument is there's a choice to be made, and it's just not true. It's a fallacy. It's just not there. What this tends to do is it brings more heat to an argument than light. All it does is it fires up people's emotions, and it gets them all, angry about things that in actual fact you probably need to be quite calm about, and you need to think about separately. Yeah, there's a lot more to find out about what happened yesterday, and I'm sure we'll get to that in the fullness of time. But I just thought, as I sort of say, I mean, it's somewhat I'm interested in these, the way that these arguments are run online, and it was just such a stark example when I switched on Twitter this morning and just saw the connection that people were making. So anyway, I needed to get it off my chest, quite frankly, because it's really doing my nut in. Anyway, so what I would say, hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've got the time, do go onto the internet and do look up logical fallacies. I mean, whataboutism is a really big one. There's another one called straw man, which I've had that used against me recently, and I was really pleased for the first time I was able to spot it. So, have a look around. The other one possibly used against me quite very recently is ad hominem, where it's at the man, where, they don't attack your argument, they attack you as an individual. And that's one you see quite a lot online. It's like, well, I'm not even going to read that article by that person because I think they're a bad person. So it doesn't matter what they say. I've already, because my judgment about their character, I'm not going to listen to them anymore. Anyway, so once again, thanks very much for listening. If you've enjoyed the video, then please give me a like. If you've enjoyed the, I don't know how many videos you've watched of mine, but if you've enjoyed a few of them, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.